Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Oliver Hutaff. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Electric Imp. What I wanted to talk today with you about is the true value of the Internet of Things, and more specifically, how do we create value out of the Internet of Things and the ecosystems that go with it. We hear staggering numbers, depending on who you talk to, in terms of the potential of the IoT for unit volume or economic value over a period of time. And there's these statements get made and just sort of hang out there without a lot of explanation about what they really encompass or how we're going to get there. From my perspective, one of the things about it that's going to have to do it is it's going to have to be appropriate economic value for various partners throughout an ecosystem that we're going to have to create in order to fulfill anything close to those numbers that are out there. So that's a little bit of an overview about what I wanted to talk through today. I'll talk for about 15 minutes or so, and then leave a few minutes for questions at the end if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask. So the promise of the IoT in our eyes is a world in which every device is connected to the internet that has power, be it plugged into a wall or whether it's battery power. Basically, everything is connected to the internet. And so what that equates to is billions of connected things across the world and trillions of dollars of economic value. And for this to happen, most of the increase in those billions of devices that are connected, they're going to be things that aren't typically connected today. You know, everybody's used to computers, cell phones, tablets, any number of mobile devices that are connected through 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, any of those kinds of things. The IoT represents the opportunity to increase the number of connected things to products that aren't even thought about today as potentially being connected. So the question then becomes, how does that happen? What is it that drives that? So one example that I try to use, I've used at various times in my career, is sort of do a die low in terms of a product or an activity. Die low is day in the life of. And so as I think about what the market for the IoT is over the next several years, I think about what would my life look like potentially 5-10 years in advance, and then how are IoT connected devices going to interact with me and shape my day and how my day progresses, the things that I do, what kind of schedules I operate on. So for me, usually the first thing that happens in the morning, my alarm clock goes off at a predetermined time that I've set it to. I get up, go about my business, shower, shave, go downstairs, have breakfast, leave my house and go to the office. In a world in which you've got billions of connected devices, my alarm clock's not going to go off at a fixed time anymore. It's going to look at my calendar as my first appointment, whether it's I need to be in the office, I have a meeting, I have a phone call scheduled at 9 or 9:30 in the morning, and I'm going to tell it that that's my triggering event. So it's going to then look at, okay, it's 10 miles from your house to your office, what's the traffic look like this morning? It's going to take you 14 minutes, it's going to work backwards from there. It's going to know that I take 12 minutes every morning to have coffee and a bagel. It's going to allow for that time period. It knows 3 minutes after my alarm normally goes off, I'm in the shower. It's going to turn my shower on for me 60 seconds before I get in. Therefore, I don't have to reach in and get the cold blast of cold water in the morning. It's going to already be warm water when I get in. So in that example, basically machine-to-machine communication, my alarm clock looking at my calendar, understanding the dependencies, current factors such as traffic data or weather, what that's doing in my commute time. All of those kinds of things are how my day is going to get started, as opposed to me saying, I want my alarm to go off at 6:45 every morning. As you play that through, you get into the office, any number of opportunities for devices that are not connected today, postage machines, industrial equipment, HVAC, security systems, everything that knows me as an individual, it knows I'm there, it knows what my preferences are, what's next on my calendar, what I've just come from, where I go for lunch. Any of these kinds of things start to become possible when basically everything is a connected device. Today, if I walk in someone's home, there are certain things that I expect to see that are connected. People lying around with smartphones, tablets, computers. Prior to being at Electric Imp, I was the Chief Financial Officer at Roku, obviously a connected device for streaming television to TV screens. So there are certain things that are just commonplace today. If you see other things like a connected refrigerator, a connected microwave, connected appliances in general, that typically stands out as noteworthy today. 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to be the inverse. It's going to be odd to see something like that that's not connected. And so we're headed to a position very quickly where the dynamic is going to change from just a certain amount of devices in a home or in an office are connected to most of them become connected. So if you think about what some people have projected about the potential for the IoT, Cisco has said that by 2020, they think there are going to be 50 billion connected things in the world. That's compared to 10 million things today. And if you look at tablet sales, cell phone sales, those are starting to plateau. They're not seeing the exponential growth that they have previously. So that increase from 10 billion today to 50 billion by 2020 is going to have to come from new categories of devices that are not connected today. And so the question then becomes, what's pulling those devices into the marketplace? Where's the demand for these? Is it just because it's connected as an additional feature? Having worked in consumer electronics for a lot of my career, additional features that people market just as features of technology, you might sell 10% more, you might sell 20% more because of additional features. What has to happen with the IoT is we have to find ways to sell things on value and utility and benefit to the consumer, whether it's an end consumer in a home, whether it's an industrial consumer at a factory floor somewhere. And so, as we see our customers coming through the door, we're still fairly early in this development. People are selling largely on features or on fairly straight relationships between them and their consumers. And so we're certainly seeing a lot of increase in activity. A lot of new startups are getting funded, they're coming out, they're shipping units out of the gate. I'll talk about one of our customers in a few minutes. But I still think in terms of hitting the exponential ramp in terms of when the volume really starts to increase, this notion of selling on value, and that you have to create an ecosystem of partners who participate in that, both in terms of a benefit standpoint and a cost standpoint, I think we're still just scratching the surface on that. So the IoT covers a variety of industries. I don't think anybody's put a limit on it. At Electric Imp, we build a horizontal platform that covers basically the connectivity and cloud service, allows you to provision devices out in the field and update OS. And so as a horizontal platform, we can play in any industry. We're in over 24, 25 product categories today, all with the exact same platform, no special customization for any customer or industry. But this is true of a large part of the IoT. While certain verticals and industries will have specific requirements in terms of things like security, HIPAA is certainly one in healthcare. Generally, the IoT is broadly applicable both to home environments, commercial and industrial, mobile in terms of telematic applications and supply chain. And so there are a few characteristics that run across all of these that really, I think, begin to define the value proposition for having new categories of devices be connected. So the first and most simple of which, increase revenues or find new revenue sources. One of the most basic examples that is relevant to me that I like to give that people typically get at a gut level is once a year, I get the honeydew list in the morning on a weekend from my wife. It says go to Lowe's and pick up a new filter for my refrigerator, with a water dispenser in the door. Every so often it says you have 10% of your filter life left. So I go down to Lowe's, buy a new water filter, come back, put it in, and all is peaceful in my house again. With a connected refrigerator, my manufacturer can know when I have 10% life or 15% life left in that filter. Because they have an ongoing relationship with me now, they can simply send me a new filter, charge my credit card. I don't have to go to Lowe's. It's a much easier process. They take out the middleman in terms of the channel partner that's selling it. It's direct to consumer, it's higher margin for them. It's great utility for me because I no longer have to make a special trip out to go pick up a new filter. Cost reduction, again, fairly basic in terms of how do we leverage new technology. So if you think about white goods, for example, take home appliances. Typically, most manufacturers of white goods, the only thing they ever hear from a customer is they get a warranty card back in maybe 10 or 15% of the cases where a consumer buys one of their appliances. So that's it. They know their name, maybe they have their email address, and they know roughly where they're located. They know nothing about how that customer is using that device, how that device is performing in the field. So the first time something goes wrong with that device, that's usually the first time they actually hear from a customer who says, I have a problem, I don't know what it is, send somebody out to come and fix it. So they roll a truck, send somebody out, he diagnoses it. Maybe he has the right parts on his truck if it's something simple. Generally speaking, he's got to go back, bring something else in, give you the same 4-hour window where you have to be home to wait for someone to come in and fix it. So if that refrigerator, that appliance is connected, the manufacturer is basically going to be able to have some visibility into what's wrong with that through the fault codes, basically through being able to do remote diagnostics. In some cases, they'll be able to fix it with simply a software push. In other cases, they'll have to roll a truck again. But at least at that point, they know or have a pretty good idea already of what's wrong with that device out in the field. So the truck can be properly equipped if it needs a new compressor, if it needs something else, so that they can provision that truck so they only have to make one truck roll instead of two. Again, a very basic, very simple example of sort of the opportunities of how you can drive value through the IoT and having devices connected. But if you think about sort of field maintenance, both predictive and preventative maintenance, huge industries have built up around doing that, particularly for industrial and commercial equipment in the field. The ability to have remote monitoring, the potential to fix devices out in the field without having to roll a truck becomes huge from an economic standpoint, both for manufacturers as well as service providers. Also helps with businesses in terms of reducing downtime. So one of the other aspects that comes with having connected products, particularly if you're one of the innovators and one of the first out, is clearly product differentiation. The ability to have a product serviced out in the field versus having sort of the 2 visits to have product service. As well as you're starting to now know how your consumers are using your products out in the field every single day. Where you may have never known what a use case was for a customer for one of your devices, now you're going to have the potential to know what they're doing with it every single day. So it's interesting data today, but as you think about your product roadmap, what features are customers using? What are they not using? What do they value? That gives you the ability, as you start to rev product cycles, have a much more targeted product in terms of how your customers use that product, their receptiveness to it, as well as the ability to continue to build brand loyalty because you're responding to their needs, you're enhancing the features that are used, and potentially you're not investing in things that people don't find valuable and are not using. And the last piece of this where I think we have to get to really start to hit that exponential growth function where devices really start to take off is around new partnerships and the value of data. So in a traditional relationship between a manufacturer and a consumer, it's generally one-to-one. I'm the manufacturer, you're the consumer, I'm going to deal with you on a one-to-one basis. With new partnerships, you bring in third parties that have the ability both to gain economics from it, but also to cover some of the costs, whether it's initial upfront costs or ongoing service costs. And typically they're doing this by one of 2 ways. They're either fulfilling something that you have expressed as an intent to buy or need to buy because of the data that's coming off of your device, or they're looking at you as a category of your manufacturer's customers. So a subset. Perhaps you have a lower risk profile because you have a certain number of devices in your home, for example, that have been designed to reduce the risk of fire. I'm a global insurance carrier, something that would certainly be interesting to me while I'm not necessarily concerned about the relationship between the manufacturer and the consumer. I'd love to be able to market a lower homeowners insurance or renter's insurance to your population of consumers that have this profile. So one of the devices I wanted to talk about is Haiku. So this is a customer of ours. It's a small startup. Basically what this is a shopping list tool. So it's got a magnet on it. You stick it beside your refrigerator. Every time you take something out of the refrigerator, you run out of it, it's the last milk, eggs, whatever it may be. You scan the barcode and it will build a shopping list for you up in the cloud. Also has voice recognition, so if I'm out of bananas, I just say bananas into it. Streams the audio up into the cloud, does voice recognition in the cloud, and then puts it on my list. So I can access the shopping list. My wife goes to Safeway, she can access it and figure out what it is. It's a really nifty little device. It's a great form factor, fits right in your hand very nicely. And so when it started out, it was basically just a shopping list that sort of helped people's convenience of you can keep a consolidated list of everything everybody in the house wants. So as we talk about evolving business models and bringing partners into the equation, one of the things that Haiku has done recently that I think is an indicator of things to come. They've recently announced 2 partnerships in the UK and Europe. We announced a partnership with Auchan in France, which is the largest grocery store operator in France, that basically your shopping list goes to an Auchan grocery store. You have the ability to tell it which one you shop at. You basically click a button in your app, and they will package your order up, have it ready for you. All you have to do is go through a drive-through. It charges your account, they put your groceries in your car, and off you go. This is, in France, I guess the most popular way, or one of the most popular ways of picking up groceries. So Auchan has partnered with Haiku, because if you've got a shopping list, that's pretty clear consumer intent to buy. And so they found the opportunity to partner with Haiku and basically offer this service to customers that, you keep your shopping list as you're going through the week. Tell us when you're ready to come and pick it up, and we'll have it ready for you and load it in your car. The Waitrose announcement is a new development. It was actually announced last week. They haven't been very specific yet about exactly what they're going to do with it, but I think if you look at this and you see the opportunity with it, they will probably end up doing a very similar program. And then one final bit of this is if I have a shopping list that's up there and I have 15 items on it, if I'm a competitor, or I'm Procter & Gamble, or I'm a packaged foods company, if you have a product on there that I make, but you've not necessarily scanned in my brand, is there an opportunity for me to send targeted marketing, coupons, promotional things to get you to try my product instead of the one that you scanned and listed on there? So again, another opportunity for third-party companies to participate in an ecosystem and create value both for the consumer as well as the partners in the ecosystem. So it's our belief that this ecosystem of partnerships is really what it's going to take to drive mass adoption of the Internet of Things and to give us any shot at reaching 50 billion devices over time. And so if you think about sort of the 4 key constituencies that play in this ecosystem, the device manufacturers, we've talked about a little bit. It's revenue streams, it's maintenance costs, it's better customer insight. All of this creates some brand fidelity. We've got one customer that we're working with who basically wants to connect all of their devices, and they ship about 50 million devices a year. But they want to create a common app for all of their devices, and some of their devices maybe are around an edge case, around whether it's applicable to the IoT or not. But their view of it is they want this community of their branded products so that it's basically a member of the family, is what their CEO says, so that it feels like a member of the family to everyone who interacts with that app because they'll be doing it multiple times a day. Tremendous brand loyalty and opportunity for them to retain customers. So in terms of direct channel partners, I think the Haiku example is a very good one. It's early on, but the Auchan and the Waitrose examples of other companies who were not part of that original transaction finding a way to enhance their business model by taking advantage of what is a fairly straightforward connected product. Additionally, you get other web services partners. So we have other partners, one of which who builds a connected home irrigation system. They partner up with various weather services so that if it's Tuesday and your sprinklers always go off on Tuesday, if the weather forecast says it's going to rain today, it doesn't turn on your sprinklers that day. It leaves it off because it assumes the rain will do it. Similarly, there are other sensors